Welcome your host, Caddy Frink, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Well, hello out there in Radio Land. My name is Caddy Frink, and I am your host of Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. This is an incredible radio program that talks about recovery from the perspectives of somebody who's in recovery. And I am doing something I've never done before. I am riding solo, as my box person Brett said. You're riding solo, Caddy. So I just want to say welcome everybody who's listening. I am on AM 950, the progressive radio station. Let me do a little special thanks here to some folks that have helped us over the year plus that we've been doing our show. So thank you to the Patrick and Amy Butler Foundation, Otto Bremer Trust, Sauer Family Foundation, Hardenberg Foundation. I also want to say thank you to all the people who have given donations, who have walked the Walk for Recovery, who have been volunteers, all those different people that have contributed to Minnesota Recovery Connection, because we cannot just survive without you. And I am just super excited to be here. A little on the scared side, so if anybody hears a little anticipation in my voice, it's because I've never done this before. What we start out the show with generally is what's right with you, but I'm going to say what's right with me today. And I am really grateful to have the community that I am in, which is the recovery community. In doing this solo show today, it is going to show me that I am strong. I have got people behind me. I've got people that believe in me. I've got people cheerleading me. And when we have a community that's wrapped around us, it really can be amazing. And that's what we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection. And it's kind of the theme of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to talk from a personal voice as well as a voice from our organization. And please understand that I'm going to kind of be a bit vulnerable here in talking about what's going on in the Twin Cities area. There are people who are living in our cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and now if we stretch that out into the first tier, second tier, almost the third tier of suburbs around the Twin Cities areas that are impacted by what's going on. And I realize I'm on a radio station where we can talk about things about the ICE, I'm going to call it invasion, that we have going on in the cities. And I'm really not trying to point a bad light at anybody, but what's happening here has never happened in the United States before, and what that can do to the recovery community. We are dealing with something that we've never experienced before. We are looking at people trying to navigate their lives in a way that they've never had to navigate before. And when you add on substance use disorder, you add on trying to stay in recovery, if you add on the impact of the businesses around you, the restaurants around you, either being open, being non-open, or not open, I should say, it really kind of makes you feel a little bit unsettled. Not to mention the individuals who are absolutely impacted by this, by anybody who is, shall we say, brown-skinned or has an accent. And I say that as a woman with white privilege who is Scandinavian and Baltic, and I have privileges that I recognize. So I've been trying to reach out to the greater community. But when we're talking about the recovery community, I think about people who are stuck in their homes or people who have a fear of going outside. And there's two things that I think are happening. Number one, they're unable to get the substances that maybe make them disappear, want to escape from the reality that they're in. And then there's people who are struggling because they cannot get the substances that they have been using that help them escape from the pain that they're in. How does one navigate that, folks? Because I think about COVID. All of us went through this COVID epidemic, and you could go get your alcohol if you had a mask on and you had all those things around you, so you could go and get what you needed to kind of sustain your substance use disorder of alcohol use. You could have somebody who brought you, shall we say, street chemicals could be brought to your house. But right now we have people that are really afraid to go out in any way, shape, or form. Lord help me, what does that feel like? I don't know. So it's kind of really part of the educational part that we have at Minnesota Recovery Connection. So we have three pillars at Minnesota Recovery Connection. We have education, we have peer-to-peer support, and we have advocacy. And I want to talk about in the next hour-ish about how do we educate people, deal with the situation at hand, and keep that vibe going of recovery is possible even in the hardest of times. And then I want to talk about what we do at Minnesota Recovery Connection in terms of that peer-to-peer services. We have a lot of volunteers coming into our organization right now because we can be seen as a safe place. We are sort of in the middle of nowhere in our office, and so people can come in and feel as though they can get one-on-one services, or they can volunteer, they can just come and hang out and have a cup of coffee. So that offers that space where people can kind of do their own thing and feel safe. And then that advocacy part, we have some things going on in our community where we are literally standing with our neighbors who are struggling with going to work, going to school, going to different places where they might get their food, where they might get their doctor's appointment, where they might get some community. Think about all the people that are based on religion and have no religious community. They can do it on Zoom, they can do it on the phone, they can do it at different places, but you have a lot of people who are faith-based and they don't have a place to go. So how do we advocate for that? We just sort of have to wrap our heads around ideas, and that's what we've been doing at Minnesota Recovery Connection. How can we support the community that's struggling with recovery, struggling with their existing substance use disorder in a time of, such discomfort, such we don't know. I barely have words for it. I saw a map, y'all. On listen to me, y'all, on Facebook today, and it was a map of where all of the ICE and border control folks are, and it looked like I don't know how to describe it. Like, think of a little map of the Twin Cities area with that 3 rings of suburbs on it, and it was dotted like it had measles all over it, or had chicken pox all over it. There were dots everywhere, and that was all the activity that was going on in the Twin Cities area. And I thought, what the heck is going on here? All these little dots were SUVs or cars that had lights, that had individuals inside, that had masks, that had guns, that had pepper spray, that had, I don't know what those little blinky light things are. I'm not even sure what those things are, but they're using all these materials. And I thought, anybody who is outside the metro and the surrounding areas, think about what it would feel like if you had the chicken pox popping down on top of you, and those are all human beings coming at you in one way, shape, or form. And then you think about the people who care about the people in those communities. That's where I want to come from, folks. Because if you've got this infiltration of people that don't really maybe know what their job is, know how to do their job very well, have been given ill-begotten information, limited information, and they have been given a target that they need to work towards in terms of humans, that's frightening. And I think about the people that are struggling, and I think about the people who love the people who are struggling. And I say that in 2 different veins. We've got people that are struggling as community members, and then we have people who are of the people who are being trying to be approached, arrested, whatever that is. And then we have the people that are struggling with substance use disorder, and we love those people, and how do we take care of them? So we kind of got like this soup of like, what the heck is going on? And so I have gathered information from the staff that we have at Minnesota Recovery Connection of how they've been navigating all of this with a recovery lens, and then also an understanding that since we're in such unprecedented times, man, I hate that statement, but it does work. Unprecedented times, how do we just manage? And I will give you some antidotes of some things that I've experienced in my neighborhood and what I've been able to do. And we're just going to have some thought processes going on, and I'm going to end the show with a great video that I want you all to possibly watch because it just moved my world about 2 nights ago, and I've sent it out to all the staff that we have at Minnesota Recovery Connection. So when we come back from break, I will hit the pavement running with all my notes and all the things that people had to say. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. My name is Caddy Frink, here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. Thank you very much. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is Caddy Frink at Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. Actually, the show is Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution, here at AM 950, the awesome progressive radio station. Thank you for listening to my solo show, everybody. I am a little anxious about doing this, but I appreciate you listening. And as I said, the topic is in air quotes, unprecedented times of what we have going on in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area, because it isn't just the Twin Cities. It is the greater Minnesota area that is impacted. And what brought this to my attention is that it is so important that we support ourselves and our communities. And that is the essence of what Minnesota Recovery Connection does. That is what we are about. We're about community. We're about building community. We're about helping people build their communities. We're about educating folks. We're about bringing information, bringing facts, bringing current events of what's happening in the recovery community and our greater community. And then I had said that we are also advocating for people, and we're doing that at Minnesota Recovery Connection in different ways than we ever have done. Again, it brings me back to COVID times. We all had to do like this, like switch. We had to like say, okay, how do we help people in the current moment? And so what I did is I asked the staff in the last couple of days, how are you helping yourself during what's going on in your world when we have a community that, and it's not just the folks, it's really important to me to like identify, we have people that are being, a marginalized community that is generally brown, that is being targeted because of that. And then we have the other side of community that's saying, wait a minute, why are you doing that? What are you doing? So all those people that are out doing marches, I've done that a couple of times. I'm going to do one again in a day or two where I just show up with a sign that says, please go away, people. There's a lot of other four-letter words that are tossed into that I'll kind of leave off to the, sounds like, a duck in the water, but it's not duck. It's another word. And I think what's important is that we are seen as a city that might be protesting. No, we are rallying around people. We are supporting people. We can't fix this situation, but we can help people. We can see that people need to be seen, but they have to hide. And so how do you help a group of people that's hiding? And so where this also relates into the recovery community, in that there's a lot of people who struggle with substance use disorder, with addiction, that hide their substance use or hide the problems that they have. And how do we meld those two together and say, it's okay to certainly not be okay, but it's really okay to ask for help. And that's what's happening in the Twin Cities now. And people are standing up and they're saying, what can I do? Where can I go to help people? And if you can make a walk, make a sign, walk down the street and say, ICE out, please get out of our city. And a lot more strong words are being used, and that's seen as we're being mean and awful. We're just advocating for our communities, folks, because we love our communities. We love multicultural communities. I can't even tell you how much Minnesota Recovery Connection has grown because we have really enveloped all communities. Because addiction doesn't give up, as I would say, about addiction. It hits every community, every age. One of our marvelous certified peer recovery specialists, her name is Wendy H. She is also our grant writer. She is actually working specifically with the senior generation who are struggling with recovery. And I'm like, isn't that amazing? We're actually recognizing a group of people that are struggling with addiction. They might not be in the heat of the battle right now with the ICE infiltration in our cities, but I'll bet you there are people that they care about. But this is how we help people along on their journeys. So some of the things that the staff had talked to me about was remembering that when you are in your recovery journey, we have a tendency to want to save people. We want to try to fix people. As I said, what we want to do is we actually want to support people. And that also means yourself. And when we are at a time when media is coming at us and coming at us and coming at us, and I realize I'm on a radio station giving you a radio show and I really want you to listen, so let's just go with that. But the idea is that too much media can sometimes be too much, and it can run us down a rabbit hole. And when we go down a rabbit hole as people that struggle with addiction, what happens is that sometimes we want to escape from that. So I really want to give advice that was given to me that I have tried to myself honor, which is limit how much information I'm taking in right now. Give yourself a break. Set a timer on your phone. Set a timer on your computer. And if you can't just like walk away forever, take a break. Break for 10 minutes. Go outside. Breathe some cold air. Sorry, it's cold. Or pet a cat. Pet a dog. Pet a chameleon. I don't know. Whatever you got. But just take a break. Go have a little something to eat, to nibble on. Fix yourself a snack. Break that process of that feed, particularly with our phones, because it is another addiction, folks. And I have found myself sitting in front of my phone literally for 3 hours. Are you kidding me? That's just nutso. Nutso. And now let's be honest. I'm not just sitting there just looking at all the crazy stuff. I'm looking at some cat videos. I'm looking at some dog videos. I'm looking at some horse videos. Have seen some awesome donkey videos lately. A couple of llamas too. I got to get like this reel of these dressed up llamas. You know what? It makes me laugh. It makes a dopamine hit in my brain different from just that swiping on your phone. So be careful about how much information you're taking in, because it can really break your heart. It can really break your heart. And what it can do is it can risk your recovery, or it can make you feel like I really need to just escape. And I don't want anybody to do that. And it's one of those things that at Minnesota Recovery Connection, we're contemplating walking into the gambling addiction world, because gambling is another escape mechanism, just like swiping on your phone, just like using alcohol, just like using drugs, just like going shopping, just like doing too much physical interaction with human bodies, otherwise sex, things like that. So addiction sort of lives everywhere. Gaming is another one, a great escape. But we have to kind of take a little inventory on how we're going to take a look at that. So one of the other things that some of the staff brought up was when you are feeling isolated and the people that you know are isolated, you can't actually go and visit them. Sometimes people are reluctant to talk on their phones that are feeling isolated because of this, what's going on in the communities is people have lost their faith communities, which really, when I think about faith, I actually am a person who is not religious, but I believe in a spiritual kind of guidance versus a formalized religion, contemplated going to church. Now, that's kind of new for me, but what I was looking for was not necessarily a message, but I was looking for community. So anybody who's feeling overwhelmed with what's going on, maybe you can find a space where there's a spiritual, a faithful, a group of people that are like-minded, maybe those who have the same frustrations about what's going on in the Twin Cities, so you can have a dialogue versus a debate. Really important to talk about what you're seeing and listen to people, because I think the thing that is going on now is we all have a lot of strong opinions, like they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that, and we have a lawsuit on this and we have a this on that, and these are bad people, these are good people. The fact is that we're talking about humanity here, folks. That's what we're talking about. And so when you can get together with a group of people and maybe just have a dialogue and maybe just cry or laugh or have a cup of coffee or have, I don't know, maybe some hot dish. I don't know, get some hot dish going there at some sort of religious place. That might be something that you can do. Break bread with folks. Maybe some of the people in your neighborhood, they're on their neighborhood watch or they're on their neighborhood app, or they've been going out in the streets and advocating for the communities that are under duress right now. Get together and hear what they're talking about. Maybe go to the sites of Renee Good or Alex Purdy and maybe just hold space for those individuals that lost their lives, or go up to North Minneapolis and hold space for the young man that got shot in the leg. I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name. But these are places where lives were challenged and lives were taken away, and communities are just trying to figure out what to do. So for those of us who can step up and step into places, let's do that. But let's build community around it, because that's a lot of what's been happening. Another thing that was brought up to my attention by one of the staff members, and I had a couple of conversations, how are we going to deal with this with kiddos? Because as parents who are in their recovery journey, raising children, I've got cats, I don't have humans, and cats are pretty easy compared to little humans or moderate-sized humans. The thing about where do you go when you're feeling out of control or in control, but feeling stretched because you've got all this information coming at you. And then one of the individuals, Molly from work, said that her one of her children came to her and said, where did all the brown people go, Mom? And Molly had to figure out, how do I answer that question? And then the little person said, and I'm white and it's okay. How do you manage that conversation? And what was said was, first of all, slow down. Take that deep breath. And remember, that's a little person, you're the big person. How are you going to meet somebody in the middle on this? And I think the thing that brings me to the education part and the advocacy part of Minnesota Recovery Connection is that we have to listen more than we need to talk. So I thought in that situation, if I had a little person come to me with some sort of comments about like that, I would say, tell me more about what that feels like. Who is it that, who's the, if you're going to use the term, who's the little brown person that's missing? What's their name? Let's call them by name. What did you like to do together, so that we can build a memory about that person when they come back? You can say to somebody, I really missed you. And hey, you adults, same thing. Even saying the name of the individuals that might not be in your workplace or in the restaurants that you go to or the stores that are not open anymore. Maybe we just acknowledge, hey, there's this place down the street that is a Mexican, Hispanic, Ethiopian, Somali restaurant that they had to close their doors. Let's just say the name of this space and say, I'm holding space for you. It's so important that we listen to people right now. Again, there's all kinds of commentary out there that says what we should and shouldn't do, but the fact is that we need to come together as a community, and we also need to come together as a country. That's me saying that, and that's what I believe. So building community, whether it's faith-based or spiritually based, things like that. Remember that we are pretty lucky in the recovery community that we can get together at an AA meeting, an NA meeting, a Wellbriety meeting, Smart Recovery meeting, all these places. Everybody remember that those still exist. And if people aren't there, let's try to remember, their names and, just honor that they are missing right now. But we want to make sure that their recovery is still solid. Maybe make phone calls, maybe make texts, send an email. However, those individuals that might not be showing up lately, that they still are part of our recovery community. Because our recovery community is super strong. We have a culture that really believes that we can sustain this thing that we want to be better. We don't want any more people to die. And this is a time when people might use substances because they might be able to get them delivered by somebody, and they could overdose, and nobody has naloxone. Nobody has the Narcan. Nobody has any kind of apparatus to bring somebody's life back. So we could lose very important people in our communities. So this is why this connection with making sure that we don't lose our humanity, and we don't lose that real essence of what recovery is, which is stay aware. If people are not around, ask somebody where they are. If people are struggling in communities where they just have stay locked up in their homes, can we write them a letter? Can we send them a card? Can we put a bulletin board note on a space where they go pick up their mail, hopefully? I don't know. I'm kind of coming up with stuff off the cuff here, folks. That's kind of what I do. So other things that I wanted to kind of bring up to mind is that when we are dealing with uncertain times, we have to remember that there's an entire historical trauma that is going on both in life in general, in the history of the United States. But I personally have had some PTSD, and I'm sure I am certainly not alone, when I heard helicopters going over my house when both Renee Good and Alex Purdy were gunned down. And that brought fear back into my space because I hadn't heard helicopters since the George Floyd space and time when he was murdered. And we had a city that was in a really, really, really horrific space. And we were all trying to navigate how do we help people in a time when people are being marginalized and not being seen. And then what do we do when we don't know what to do? That's where we're at. Right now, we are so struggling with what is the next right thing to do. Well, it again is about building community. So I want to acknowledge, and this came from somebody who is from the Native community, that historical trauma over all these 250 years of our world has impacted that marginalized community. And then we have the African American Black community, we have the Somali community, we have the Hispanic community, we have the Ethiopian community, the East African community. I'm probably not going to be able to name we have the Asian communities, the Asian Island Pacific communities that are all being impacted. If we think about history, we cannot repeat it, and that's what it feels like we're sort of on the brink of right now. And what happens is that people want to escape from their pain, folks. And when they escape from their pain, they're going to use things like chemicals or they're going to use alcohol. This is just the way it's been done since history began. You think of all of the wars around the world, usually there's wine or beer, maybe something else that was a hallucinogenic way back in the day. I don't know what that would have looked like. But this is such a common way for people to just make it all just stop for a little while. And I just really want people to remember that there are so many groups that are affected by what's going on in the Twin Cities and Minnesota area. And I got to say around the country, there's, Portland, Oregon, and I know I'm going to just say Portland because that's the one that comes to my mind. I don't want to try to misquote different cities. New York City has had some issues. Maine has had some issues. But what we need to do is we need to remember that when people are living their lives and they're doing the best they can, we have to honor that. I myself have not been so profoundly impacted by what's going on in the community, with the exception of a story I just learned a couple of days ago. And I will recant the story. I live in South Minneapolis, and my neighbor sent me a text and said, hey, the person that is on the block, just so you know, was abducted from their workplace, and she was taken by ICE, Border Patrol, don't know which one, and was within 8 hours, a short period of time, sent to Texas and detained in Texas. She's a legal citizen, but had to, in ways I cannot even begin to understand, found a lawyer and was able to get some legal advice and was able to get home. Ironically, she was picked up on January 6th, which really we know that date in history, and she was gone for about 3 weeks. Well, she has a husband, she has a child, she has a home, she had a job, and all that was interrupted for 3 weeks. Luckily, she got home and communicated with my neighbor and was told the story. Excuse me. And is locked up in their home. And thus, my neighbor said, what do you need right now? Some basic groceries were provided for that person and their family. But then the individual also, for a period of time, the husband who was left here in Minnesota and the child that was left in Minnesota, they moved off to a hotel off into a suburb so that they could just sort of be away from where all of the action was. I don't know whether the family unit is back together, but just last night, due to some marvelous human beings that are wrapped around me, I delivered 3 bags of groceries to them. And what I realized is that is what community looks like. Whether it's your recovery community, your neighborhood community, whatever it is, this is how we can help one another out. And I just think it's so important that we recognize that when the times get tough, we actually do get tougher in Minnesota. We are Minnesota nice, but we don't like ice. I came up with that one. I know it's not original, but man, do I like it. So we are Minnesota nice, but we don't like ice. And we don't like a couple of kind of forms of ice. We don't like the ice on the ground, and we don't like the ice in another way, because the ice on the ground makes us go boom, boom, and that hurts. So just remembering that, that Minnesota nice thing, I think it's going to have a whole new reflection in our state's history at this point. And so I just really just want to say that it's amazing how when we are in the toughest of times, we as a state and we as a people here have come together. And I want to remind all of our recovery community and the people that love the people in recovery, the people who are concerned about the people in recovery, or the people who are still using on the street. There's a lot of people who are just need a place to fall and to land. And we can do that in both recovery communities as well as our neighborhood communities. So I'm going to take our next break, and when I come back, I'm going to give you a few more tidbits on how do we manage looking at hard times, the times that we're in, it's going to end, and how do we proceed. So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. My name is Caddy Frank here on AM 950, the Progressive Radio Station.
This house needs love in it, 'cause without it there's no home. And there's one thing that I've learned through this year of being alone.
Okay, it's a little early on that one there, folks, but I just love that music. I'm still going to give credit to Aaron Fitzgerald for all the music that we still have, but that last tune is just fabulous. So welcome back to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Caddy Frank is your host, who's doing our first solo show. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to make it through. Thank you for listening. I am here with Redefining Recovery Revolution. We are from Minnesota. We, the collective we. I am all kinds of things. I'm a Gemini, so, that just goes to show. I represent Minnesota Recovery Connection and all the great people that support Minnesota Recovery Connection. And again, we're talking about the current events that are going on in the Twin Cities, that are going on in our country, that are going on, really worldwide. There's a lot of people have gotten behind the fact that we are in a hot space right now with unprecedented infiltration of people that are wanting to take people away that are really parts of our communities. Some of you might agree, some of you might disagree. There are some bad people that look like they want to be taken away, and there's some people that look more like me that need to be locked up as well. So, you know what? There's good, bad people all over, but we do not need to be taking away people the way it's being done. We can do it in a peaceable manner, and we have been doing that for, this Department of Homeland Security and ICE and stuff has been around for, I think it's like 40 years now. They've been doing okay. I don't know what's going on now. So, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, because our recovery community is going to be at risk, just like every other community. When you feel like you don't have any control, you feel like you don't understand what's going on, the easiest thing to do is escape. And what we want to do is say you can escape, but you can do it in different ways. You can find a recovery community. You can find a walking community. You can find a book reading community. You can find your neighborhood association. I belong to a neighborhood association in South Minneapolis. There's neighborhood associations all through the Twin Cities. Reach out to any one of those. They've got gatherings of people that can help you. Community centers that are looking for people to build community, maybe bring resources for those individuals who are without food, without things that they need, medicines, who knows, there's a lot of folks. This is how you can build on your recovery, because you're helping somebody else. As I said, we can't save people. We can't fix this situation, but we can advocate and we can be there. oh, excuse me, I had a little something happen there. We can be there to support people. And that's, to me, that's what all of this work that we've been doing, that I've been doing. I mean, I'm 25 years in recovery, and I feel like I'm at a new space in my recovery journey because I have to look at it differently. I have to say, what is it that I'm supposed to do now? When the events of George Floyd's murder took place, I know I went out on the street and I helped clean up glass, and I helped watch my neighbors to make sure that people who had ill-begotten ideas in our neighborhoods were flagged out. And in this case, I'm delivering food for people that need it. I am listening to my fellow neighbors who have different backgrounds that I don't have I have no idea what it's like to be brown skinned. I know what it's like to be a Scandinavian woman at 5'10", and I know that I can walk on the street with generally no concerns whatsoever. So I have no idea what it's like, but all I know is that I can listen and I can help support people. So remembering that whatever you can do will help your recovery journey and also might keep somebody alive. One of the other stories that I wanted to share that I thought was really interesting is that I'm a lady who gets her nails done. And I went to my one of my 2 different nail salons, and one of the individuals that I work with at this place happens to be Hispanic. And I said, is this person available? And they said, no, because they're staying home right now. I said, oh, okay. Well, she's pregnant, and she is just going to stay home for right now until the baby's born. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I have a tendency to have the gift of the gab. Might have picked that up since I am a host on a radio show. Just saying. I'll talk to anybody about anything. Oh, and I got another good story for you, too. And I found out that this person is married and that it was advised by her partner, her husband, that she would like her to stay home because she doesn't want, or he doesn't want any risk that she would be picked up in a pregnant state because she is a Latino Hispanic. And she does have her citizenship, but that doesn't seem to make any bit of difference right now. They will just pick you up, detain you, ship you off, and then deal with it later. Anybody that the 2 people that I've mentioned, neither one of are hardened criminals. I think very, very comfortably I can say that, but one was detained and the other one wants to keep her baby safe, which makes a lot of sense to me. And this particular shop I go to, as many are throughout the nation, is owned by Asian Island Pacificer person. And luckily, they haven't been impacted as greatly, but the neighborhoods around them have been impacted. So it's like this is everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. But what we know is that if you listen to any newscast, we're generally the first or the second story. So it makes for us being a little bit unhinged and uncomfortable. Let me tell you a really fun story. So I've been gone for a couple of weeks because I had a horrible, horrible cold. So I had to have people step in for me. So as I said, I have the gift for the gab. So I was sitting in an urgent care, and I was talking to the nurse that comes in for the first round of questions. And I said that I worked for a nonprofit, and she kind of gave me kind of a little side eye. She's like, where do you work? And I said, I work for Minnesota Recovery Connection. We help people that are struggling with substance use disorder through peer-to-peer services. Yeah, I got it. I can just say that all without even thinking. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay, so I picked up a habit, or not a habit, I'm sorry, a crafty thing that I do. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And she said, I've been making hats. And I said, you have? And she said, yeah. And this is like a week and a half ago when it was bitterly cold, y'all. I mean, we couldn't even think about the outside because our noses would get stuck shut. And so she goes, I've got a bunch of hats. Do you want to give them away? And I said, sure. And so she goes running off to wherever a nurse runs off to in an office. She brings them back. And these are like 10 beautiful hats. They got pom-poms on the top. And I'm like, This is what community does, folks. This is what we do. So I was able to give them to one of the staff at Minnesota Recovery Connection to bring him to one of the spaces, Peace House, and she was able to give them away. Well, that was just the first part of the hat story. The second part of the hat story is the doctor came in, and she looked at me and she goes, well, your eyes are red, your nose is stuffy, and your ear hurts. Guess what? You have a sinus infection. And I said, okay. And I said, I got to tell you, the woman who was just in here, she just gave me a bunch of hats that I'm going to be giving away. And she goes, hats? I have about 30 or 40 hats. Don't ask me why, but I do. I said, you do? And she said, yes. And she said, do you want them? I said, sure. Y'all, you have a conversation with folks and look at what can happen. And I want to tell you, I've got to go pick up these hats because I wasn't able to last week because I was actually training in Shakopee Prison, 20 marvelous women learning how to be peer recovery specialists within the community of the Department of Corrections, and some are getting out quite soon. They'll be able to help the community on the outside with their lived experience. But I'm going to be connecting with this doctor, and I'm going to be getting these hats from her. And I'm like, this is what community looks like. You just open up a conversation. You say, hey, what's going on? And just talk to people. And I'm going to help 20 or 30, 40 people out with keeping their heads warm for the winter. And I share these stories because these are just accidental conversations. You're in front of somebody brand new. You say just a little bit of vulnerability of what you do or where you work, and it's amazing what can happen. So, we don't want this anxiety to be ruling our lives, the sadness that we have around just taking up so much space in our heads. We want to give people an opportunity to say, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be a little bit sad. And it's also okay to be mad because we're going through stuff we've never been through before, and I hope we never have to again. We can't have history repeat itself. And belonging to the recovery community, I say to anybody who is listening that might be hearing this, who is part of the community that's underground, glad to have you. We support you. We want you to be safe. We want you to stay in Minnesota. We want you all to be the best that you can be and be part of our community. For those who love those people who might be listening to this program, thank you for loving those people. Give them everything they've got. To the people who are in the recovery community who are hearing this show and want to do something to help, ask, find out, reach out to your communities in different ways, but also take care of yourselves. These are hard times. If it's not affecting you, remember it might be affecting somebody that you do not know it is. So let's have some empathy. Let's feel with people, not feel at them, not try to fix it, but stand up. Show what Minnesota is. We are Minnesota nice, but we don't like that ice. And be there, be loud, be proud, be kind, be peaceful. Do all the things that we have been doing for, sadly, weeks now. But my recovery community that I embrace and I love so very much, stay strong. Know that we at Minnesota Recovery Connection, every recovery community organization in the Twin Cities and statewide, if you need help, reach out to us. Reach out to treatment centers. Reach out to your mental health professionals. If you're in a crisis, dial 988. Somebody will be there to help you. Understand that we are stronger when we are together, and when we are together, we can show the world that we can make a difference. And when we can make a difference, that means that we have done something not new, but we have just shown people that life does go on. We can manage. And just be kind to yourself. Take time away. Go for a walk. Pace around your house. Pet your cat. Pet your dog. Pet your kid. Pet your partner. I don't care who. Just love up on everybody that you possibly can. So I want to thank you for listening to my solo show. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death, because I love all of you out there that take the time to listen to this show. For all of you that donate and or give to Minnesota Recovery Connection, thank you. For all the volunteers, I want to mention Josie, Rachel, Lorraine, Patricia, Who else did I get information from? Molly. These are all the people. Alicia. If I didn't mention you, you know I love you. Just thank you all for listening to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution here on AM 950, the Progressive Radio Station. Be well, take care of one another. Have a marvelous, marvelous day ahead of you. Bye!